Deep in the heart of the foundry, raw blocks of aerospace aluminum sit waiting to be transformed into the deadliest bird in the sky. The furnace roars like a beast as we heat the titanium alloy, preparing to forge the structural ribs that will withstand 9 Gs. Molten metal glows with a hellish orange light, casting long shadows across the factory floor where the heavy industrial magic is about to happen. Massive hydraulic presses slam down with the weight of the world, crushing the hot metal into the rigid bulkheads of the fighting Falcon. Sparks fly like fireworks in a heavy metal concert as the rough edges are ground down, revealing the shiny, lethal skeleton underneath the grind. We take these forged spines and move them to the milling station where computerized blades shave off the excess weight with surgical precision. There is no room for error here because a single millimeter off means the difference between a supersonic predator and a pile of scrap. The air is thick with the smell of ozone and burning metal as the robotic arms dance around the frame, drilling thousands of holes. Workers in leather aprons stand by, watching the machines carve out the channels where the fuel lines and hydraulic veins will soon pump life. This is not just manufacturing, it is the violent birth of an apex predator crafted from the cold earth to rule the blue skies. Thousands of rivets are driven into the skin, sounding like rapid gunfire echoing off the steel walls of this gritty, darkened industrial cathedral. The central fuselage comes together, a chaotic puzzle of aluminum and composite materials that must fit tighter than a drum to survive the speed. We are building the lungs of the beast now, shaping the air intake that will feed the massive engine waiting to be installed later. Every single bolt is torqued by hand and checked by eye because up at 30,000 feet, you do not get a second chance. The wings are mated to the body, turning a collection of metal parts into a recognizable silhouette that strikes fear into enemies worldwide. Inside the cockpit tub, we lay down the complex nervous system, miles of wiring that will connect the pilot to the machine's brain. It looks like a mess of copper spaghetti right now, but these wires are the only thing keeping the Falcon flying straight and true. The hydraulic actuators are installed with grease and grit, ready to move the control surfaces faster than the blink of a human eye. We grind down the seams on the outer skin until the surface is smooth as glass, reducing drag for that critical supersonic speed. The heavy manufacturing is done and the skeleton is complete, standing tall in the factory lights, hungry for its engine and its paint. Now we bring in the firepower, milling the mount for the 20mm Vulcan cannon that turns this jet into a flying gun platform. The CNC machines scream as they carve the titanium brackets, ensuring the gun sits rock solid when it spits out rounds at 6,000 RPM. It is time to install the beating heart. The massive turbofan engine that generates nearly 30,000 pounds of raw, unadulterated thrust on command. The crane groans under the weight as we carefully slide the engine into the fuselage, a tight fit for a machine built for war. Mechanics with grease under their nails connect the fuel lines, feeding the beast the volatile kerosene it needs to burn up the sky today. We attach the exhaust nozzle, the business end of the jet, where the fire comes out to push this metal bird past the sound barrier. Up in the nose cone, we install the radar array, the all-seeing eye that spots the enemy long before they even know we are there. Sparks fly as we solder the connections, integrating the heads-up display that projects the kill box right in front of the pilot's focused eyes. We bolt down the ejection seat, the pilot's last resort when the mission goes south and the plane is going down in a fireball. The bubble canopy is lowered into place, a seamless piece of high-strength polycarbonate that offers a view of the world from the top down. Heavy steel struts form the landing gear built to take the punishment of slamming onto the tarmac after a long sortie in hostile territory. We pressurize the hydraulic lines, watching the flaps and ailerons snap to attention like a soldier saluting his commanding officer on the parade deck. The tail fin goes on, next standing proud like a shark's fin cutting through the water, providing the stability needed for high-G dogfighting maneuvers. Workers attach the weapon pylons under the wings, the heavy racks that will carry the missiles and bombs to deliver destruction to the target. We sand down the composite skin one last time, removing every imperfection so the radar-absorbent paint sticks like a second layer of skin. The factory floor goes quiet as we mask off the glass and sensors, preparing to spray the gray war paint on this metal monster. The spray guns hiss, coating the aluminum in a tactical gray that blends into the clouds, making the jet invisible until it is too late. Under the heat lamps, the paint cures into a hard shell, protecting the airframe from the harsh elements of rain, snow, and enemy fire. We apply the squadron markings and the warning labels, final touches that turn a factory machine into a piece of sovereign military hardware property. The assembly is finished, but the job is not done until we fire it up and make sure this beast creates the right thunder. The hangar doors roll open with a heavy mechanical grind, revealing the gray sky that this newborn predator is itching to tear right apart. We hook up the ground power unit, sending a jolt of electricity through the veins of the aircraft to wake up the sleeping computer. Cockpit lights flicker on a constellation of green and amber LEDs blinking in the darkness, confirming the brain is active and ready for war. Fuel pumps whine as they pressurize the system, forcing jet fuel into the combustion chamber where the spark is about to ignite the fire. The turbine blades begin to spin, a low whistle turning into a deafening scream that shakes the concrete floor beneath our heavy work boots. We push the throttle forward, engaging the afterburner, and a blue cone of flame shoots out the back, melting the air with pure heat. The jet strains against the wheel, chalks a wild animal trying to break its chains and launch itself into the stratosphere where it belongs. Technicians monitor the telemetry, watching the temperature gauges climb into the red zone, ensuring the metal can take the extreme heat of combat flight. Vibration sensors pick up every rattle, but this frame is solid built to endure the violent shaking of a high-speed tactical aerial dogfight. We cut the engine and let the silence rush back in, smelling the burnt kerosene that hangs in the air like the scent of victory. Now we test the flight controls, moving the stick to watch the elevators and rudders slice through the air with aggressive, sharp mechanical movements. Hydraulic fluid pumps through the lines at high pressure, giving the pilot the muscle needed to pull high G-turns without breaking a sweat. The radar is calibrated against a test target, locking on with a digital grip that refuses to let go until the threat is destroyed. We check the electronic countermeasures, the invisible shield that jams enemy missiles and keeps our pilot safe when the sky lights up with fire. Every switch in the cockpit is flipped, every button pressed, ensuring the man in the seat has total control over this flying death machine. We load dummy munitions onto the pylons to test the release mechanisms, making sure the bombs drop exactly when the trigger is finally pulled. The landing gear is cycled up and down on the jack's heavy steel legs, folding away smoothly to streamline the jet for supersonic travel. Inspectors crawl over the fuselage with flashlights, hunting for cracks or loose rivets that could spell disaster at Mach 2.05 speeds. The canopy seal is pressurized, checked for leaks to ensure the pilot can breathe easy while flying high above the thin, suffocating atmosphere. Ground tests are complete, the systems are green, and the Falcon is cleared to leave the factory floor and head for the open runway. The pilot climbs in, strapping into the ejection seat, ready to merge man and machine into a single weapon of pure aerial destruction. The canopy closes with a hiss, sealing out the noise of the world and locking the pilot inside a pressurized capsule of high-tech warfare. Tires roll over the tarmac as the jet taxis to the runway, heat waves shimmering off the exhaust like demons dancing on the concrete. The tower gives the clearance and the throttle is slammed forward, dumping fuel into the engine and igniting a controlled explosion out the back. It tears down the runway, a silver blur of speed and noise, leaving the ground behind to conquer the domain where it truly belongs. The landing gear thuds into the wheel wells and the Falcon climbs vertical, piercing the clouds like a dagger thrown by a giant hand. At 30,000 feet, the pilot pushes the stick, overrolling the jet into a hard bank that would crush an ordinary civilian lung. The airframe groans under the stress, but the forged aluminum holds strong, proving the quality of the sweat and steel back at the foundry. He pushes it past Mach 1, a sonic boom cracking through the sky like a whip, announcing the arrival of American air superiority power. Now we enter the testing range, a desolate stretch of desert where we can unleash the full fury of the weapon systems without restraint. The target computer locks onto a derelict tank sitting in the sand, painting it with a laser designator for the incoming simulated strike run. The pilot flicks the safety switch, arming the internal cannon, ready to spit heavy lead at a rate that tears heavy armor into shreds. A trigger pull sends a vibration through the entire airframe as the Vulcan cannon roars, spinning barrels blurring into a haze of lethal motion. Tracers draw a line of fire from the nose to the ground, kicking up dust and destroying the target in a violent dust cloud. Smoke trails from the gunport as the jet pulls up hard, escaping the blast zone and climbing back into the safety of altitude. We test the hardpoints next, simulating the release of a gravity bomb, ensuring the pylons let go exactly when the flight computer says drop. The avionics track the imaginary projectile, calculating the impact point with mathematical certainty, proving that math and metal make for a deadly combination here. Radar warning receivers scream in the headset, simulating an enemy lock, forcing the pilot to deploy flares and chaff to break the deadly track. Bright magnesium flares burst behind the jet, decoying the heat-seeking threat, while the Falcon turns and burns to escape the kill zone alive today. The test is brutal and unforgiving, pushing every system to the breaking point to ensure it never fails when real lives are online. The tires screech against the pavement as the bird returns to the nest, smoke rising from the rubber after a brutal high-speed aerial workout. We deploy the drag chute, a massive flower of silk that slows the metal beast down before it runs out of solid concrete runway. Heat radiates from the engine nozzle, distorting the air as the jet taxis back to the hangar to be stripped down for heavy transport. Crews swarm the aircraft, immediately looking for fluid leaks or stress fractures that might have opened up during the intense supersonic flight test regime. The verdict is in, and the machine is solid accepted by the military brass as a certified weapon ready for the frontline action. Now begins the reverse surgery, taking apart what we just built so it can fit inside the belly of a massive cargo transport plane. We drain the volatile fuel and the hydraulic fluids, leaving the veins dry so the aircraft does not become a flying bomb during shipping. Delicate sensors in the glass cockpit are covered with heavy protective foam, shielding the high-tech eyes from the bumps and bruises of global transit. Carpenters build the massive wooden coffins, framing heavy timber crates that are strong enough to hold tons of high-grade military aluminum and titanium alloy. The wings are detached with heavy bolts placed into their own vertical racks, looking like clipped feathers, waiting to be reattached in a foreign land. A massive industrial crane lifts the fuselage, the stripped-down body swinging slowly in the air before being lowered into the darkness of the crate. Heavy chains verify the fuselage cannot move an inch, locking the Predator down tight so it does not thrash around during the long flight. Desiccant bags are thrown in to suck up moisture, ensuring the sea air or humidity does not rust the internal components before arrival day. We seal the box with pneumatic nail guns, the sound echoing like gunfire as we close the lid on this sleeping giant of war. Stencils are spray painted onto the wood, marking the destination and the contents with classified codes that tell the world this is dangerous U.S. property. Forklifts the size of tanks lift the crates, their engines straining as they move millions of dollars of hardware toward the waiting loading dock. This is heavy logistics, moving air superiority from the factory floor to a forward operating base halfway across the burning, conflict-ridden globe today. Armed guards watch every move, ensuring no sabotage touches the cargo, because this box contains the balance of power for a whole region. The crate is just wood and nails, but inside lies a dormant monster waiting to wake up and dominate the skies over the battlefield. We load it onto the flatbed truck, securing the straps for the first leg of a journey that ends in fire and sonic booms. The convoy moves out under the cover of darkness, hauling the heavy wooden crates toward the gaping maw of a waiting C-5 Galaxy transporter. The cargo plane swallows the Falcon hull, a belly full of war machines destined for allies who need air superiority to survive the fight. Crossing the ocean at 30,000 feet, the dormant fighter sleeps in its box while the world turns and conflict brews in distant lands. Wheels touch down on foreign soil and the ramp drops with a heavy clank, releasing the smell of ozone and potential violence into the air. Mechanics on the other side attack the crates with crowbars, ripping open the wood to reveal the sleeping gray beast inside the dark container. It is a race against time as the wings are bolted back on turning a collection of parts back into a lethal flying weapon system. Fresh fuel fills the tanks and the software is updated with local maps, programming the navigation computer with the coordinates of the enemy targets. A new pilot walks across the tarmac, helmet in hand, looking up at the machine that will keep him alive in the danger zone. The crew chief gives the canopy a final slap, a gesture of luck and trust before the engine screams to life one more time. It taxis past the bunker's heat haze, blurring the horizon, ready to do the job it was forged to do in our gritty foundry. Afterburners light up the dusk twin pillars of fire, pushing the jet into the night sky to patrol the borders and enforce the peace. It started as a block of cold aluminum and a bucket of raw titanium beaten and shaped by American hands into a masterpiece of war. Back at the factory, the furnaces are still burning hot, melting the next batch of metal for the next Falcon in the production line. The welders and machinists wipe the sweat from their brows, knowing their hard labor is flying high and fast somewhere on the other side. We do not just build planes, we build the shield that guards the sky, hammering freedom out of steel sparks and sheer industrial willpower. This bird will fly for decades, outmaneuvering the competition and dropping the hammer on anyone foolish enough to challenge its dominance in the air today. It is agile, it is fast, and it is absolutely lethal, a testament to the heavy metal thunder we manufacture right here on the ground. As the silhouette disappears into the sun, we know the job is done right because second best is not an option in this business. The shift whistle blows, signaling the end of the day, but the machines never truly sleep, waiting to grind the next block of raw steel. This is the F-16 Fighting Falcon, born in fire, forged in grit, and built to rule the skies forever with absolute heavy metal power.